This tech nerd completely transformed after divorcing his wife, becoming the CEO of a well-known venture capital company. When Ara saw the magazine article about her ex-husband, she was utterly shocked. They had been divorced for 3 years and had never contacted each other. Unexpectedly, their reunion took place at a police station. If it weren't for someone spreading rumors that Ara was chasing wealth and abandoning the poor, saying she wanted to reconcile with her ex-husband after seeing his success, the argument would never have happened. If those men hadn't stubbornly refused to believe that this messy, shabby woman was the ex-wife of businessman Cha Jung-woo, Ara's best friend wouldn't have called Jung-woo to clear things up with just one simple sentence: "I am Cha Jung-woo." The man who had been so aggressive earlier instantly agreed to settle the dispute. After everything was resolved, Ara couldn't bring herself to look Jung-woo in the eye. Earlier, she would rather swallow the bitterness than call Jung-woo, simply because she didn't want him to see her in such a miserable state. With her friend's help, Ara reluctantly thanked Jung-woo, but before she could finish, he interrupted her, saying he hoped they would never meet again over something like this. She felt the same. It would be best to avoid any strange rumors. He agreed, adding that they should both be careful. On the way back, Jung-woo's emotions were complicated. He thought he had already moved on, yet when he got the call, he couldn't help but rush over. His secretary was also surprised. He had assumed his boss's ex-wife must be a stunning beauty. Jung-woo said that she really had been beautiful before, even known as the Madonna of Onshi apartments. In the past, Na-Ara had lived a life that seemed like a dream. She married the man she loved, and together they enjoyed peaceful, happy days. Jung-woo was always a model husband who loved his wife deeply. He was Ara's pride whenever she talked about him with her friends, making them look at her with admiration. However, that happiness didn't last long. On the 100th day of their marriage, Jung-woo suddenly told his wife that he had resigned from his job to start his own business. The news hit Ara like a thunderbolt because he was the only breadwinner of the family. She had already quit her job to become a housewife and take care of their home, but because of his decision to start a business, their life became extremely difficult. Ara had to work 3 or 4 jobs at the same time just to cover living expenses. Meanwhile, her husband kept failing and falling into debt, putting all the burden on Ara's small shoulders. Eventually, her health broke down, causing her to lose their first child. That tremendous loss pushed Ara to her limit. She could no longer endure her husband's thoughtlessness, so she decided to file for divorce, ending their 4-year marriage. 3 more years passed. Since the divorce, Ara had no news about him. She was still single, working tirelessly to help pay off the debt from his startup, something Jung-woo never even knew about. One day, a customer who worked for a matchmaking show saw Ara's beauty and invited her to join, offering a high payment. But after her failed marriage, she didn't dare to meet anyone new and refused the offer. Until one day, Ara visited her wealthy friend Bang-soon, who showed her a magazine praising Jung-woo's success. Ara was completely shocked and couldn't believe her eyes. He had become a rich tycoon, owning a technology company that was extremely successful and widely covered by the media. Because of his fame, many heiresses from wealthy families wanted to marry Jung-woo, but each time he coldly and firmly rejected them. Ever since his divorce from Ara, Jung-woo found it difficult to accept another woman. When reporters asked what had motivated his success, Jung-woo immediately thought of his ex-wife, the woman who had constantly criticized him every time he failed. In the end, they went to court for their divorce on a snowy day. Even though he begged Ara to give him another chance, it was useless. For that reason, Jung-woo was determined to succeed and make her regret it. Ara was indeed regretful, but not because she had lost a rich husband. Rather, because she should have demanded alimony after helping him pay off his debts. Moreover, the idea for the free messaging app that made him famous had actually come from Ara. Seeing Jung-woo become so successful, Ara didn't want to lose to him, so she decided to join the matchmaking show. There, Ara was the most beautiful and outstanding woman, and one man quickly noticed her. He came to the women's room just to ask Ara for a private meeting, making all the others look at her with admiration because they heard he was a plastic surgeon. He gave Ara lots of cosmetics and spoke kindly to her, making her regain hope in love. Their relationship gradually developed, and he invited her to his company's year-end party. When she arrived, another woman rushed to the doctor's side, and Ara was stunned to realize they were actually lovers. The man had invited her only to introduce her to another wealthy man. When that older man started showing interest in her, Ara got scared and quickly made an excuse to go to the restroom. But things didn't stop there. The woman later came on behalf of that man to deliver a message. If Ara agreed to become his mistress, she would receive many benefits, from money to an apartment in Gangnam, as long as his wife never found out. Ara could no longer hold back her anger. It turned out that the doctor had only been using her all along. Furious, she slapped him hard for treating her like a cheap woman. Instead of admitting his fault, he insulted her even more, while his girlfriend returned the gift Ara had brought and called it something cheap and unworthy of them. After that, the two of them got in their car and left, leaving A-Ra alone to walk a long way in the pouring rain. Seeing her ex-husband's successful face appear on a big screen, she mocked herself. How pathetic she was now. A-Ra stopped by a nearby bar to ease her mood, but unexpectedly overheard some men at the next table gossiping about her with nasty rumors, saying she was greedy and kept demanding financial support from Jung-woo after their divorce. Unable to stand it, she approached them to reason, but one of them shoved her to the ground. They didn't even bother to apologize, and just walked away. In her anger, A-Ra threw a bone at one of them, hitting him so hard that he passed out. As a result, both sides were taken to the police station for questioning. Each tried to justify themselves, and refused to apologize. A-Ra accused them of defaming her first, and admitted that she was Jung-woo's ex-wife. Of course, they didn't believe her, and demanded that she call Jung-woo to settle things. Not wanting to get involved with her ex-husband, A-Ra denied any connection to him, saying she would rather go to jail than call him. Her best friend couldn't bear to see her suffer, so she called Jung-woo for help. Although Jung-woo coldly said he had nothing to do with A-Ra anymore, he eventually showed up at the police station. The moment they met again after 3 years, A-Ra felt so ashamed that she couldn't look him in the eye. The entire police station was in an uproar over the sudden appearance of the famous DNT company CEO. No one could believe that Jung-woo was really A-Ra's ex-husband. Thanks to that, the men finally agreed to make peace and drop the matter. Before getting into his car to leave, Jung-woo told A-Ra that it would be best if they never met again. It was also the first time Jung-woo's assistant had seen his boss's ex-wife. Curious, he asked about their past, and Jung-woo told him everything. A-Ra had once treated him very well, until the day he went bankrupt after a business failure, and she locked him out of the house in the freezing winter. Every time he remembered that moment, he still felt disgusted with the woman who changed her heart so quickly. Even so, he never changed his phone number, as if he were waiting for A-Ra to call. Her sharp-witted friend noticed this when she called him, but A-Ra refused to believe it. When A-Ra returned home, Min-young kept praising Jung-woo, which made her angry. They argued, and A-Ra stormed out of the house. But then she realized she had nowhere else to go except her friend's place. Not wanting to lose face by going back, she ended up spending the night at a public bathhouse. There, she overheard a group of women talking about a couple who had gotten back together after the husband became successful. Feeling uneasy, A-Ra searched online for information about Jung-woo. He was now the CEO of a major company worth billions of won. That made A-Ra feel regretful, tossing and turning all night unable to sleep. The next morning, she suddenly received a text from Jung-woo asking to meet. A-Ra couldn't believe her eyes, and even pinched herself to make sure it wasn't a dream. The pain reminded her it was real, so she immediately agreed, then hurried to a salon to have her hair done, and make herself look beautiful before heading to Jung-woo's company. As soon as she entered his office, she was stunned by its scale. Jung-woo, speaking in a cold tone, invited her to sit and handed her an envelope, saying it was the alimony money from their divorce. He also made her sign an agreement stating she could never use financial support as a reason to threaten him. A-Ra had thought Jung-woo wanted to rekindle their relationship, but now she realized he saw her as a gold digger. She trembled with anger, almost dropping her coffee. After all the years she had struggled and worked hard to pay off his debts, being humiliated like this made her furious. She tore the agreement into pieces and threw it in his face, telling him she wasn't the kind of woman who only cared about money. However, things didn't end there. A-Ra had an older brother named Soo-chol, whose business had failed and left him in debt. When he heard that his former brother-in-law had become rich, he went to Jung-woo's company himself. Thinking that Soo-chol was sent by A-Ra, Jung-woo gave him 300 million won in alimony, something A-Ra had no idea about at the time. At the same time, the wife of the old man from before stormed into the store looking for A-Ra. Furious because she thought A-Ra had tried to seduce her husband, she slapped A-Ra hard and hurled harsh insults at her. No matter how much A-Ra tried to explain, no one believed her. In the end, the manager fired her, and she lost the only job she had to earn money. Feeling miserable as she left, she received a call from her brother, saying he would help her achieve her dream of opening her own business. Hearing that, she was surprised and confused about where he had gotten the money. Unfortunately, A-Ra dropped the box she was holding, and quickly bent down to pick it up. At that moment, a young man happened to walk by and helped her. He was the son of a wealthy chaebol family. His father was the chairman who had invested in Jung-woo's company. That day, Sung-hyun had just returned from abroad and went to a bar with his former high school tutor, Jung-woo, to have a drink and reminisce about the past. Meanwhile, A-Ra's brother had been caught by loan sharks. This time, they were not going to spare him, when if he didn't pay the money today, he would lose his life. Jung-woo was about to host an anniversary party with senior executives. He deliberately changed the date, which made Yojin curious. When she asked why he chose that particular day, Jung-woo said it was the day he escaped from hell. He recalled that after his divorce, he had gone to the riverside to drink in the freezing cold, completely broken, and without the will to live. He had intended to end his life there, but the Yeo family's butler found him in time, ran to stop him, and accidentally caused him to fall into the water. After being rescued, Jung-woo was taken to the chairman's house, where he received the old man's help. That was the day Jung-woo considered himself reborn. Around the same time, A-Ra's brother gave her the remaining 5 million won, saying it was alimony money from Jung-woo. Shocked, A-Ra demanded to know why he had accepted it. Eventually, her brother admitted that he had gone into debt and fled, and the loan sharks had been chasing him non-stop. Unable to go on like that, he had used all the money to pay off his debt, leaving only that small amount. Hearing this, A-Ra completely broke down. She burst into tears and said to her brother, "Do you even know what this money is? He once promised that I would never suffer again, but he couldn't keep that promise. That's why he gave me this money, and made me sign an agreement to disappear from his life. That's why I refused to take it. So why did you do this?" In the end, A-Ra went to meet Jung-woo once more, just to tell him that she had received the money and would use it wisely. She never mentioned her brother's debt. It was her way of ending their connection once and for all. However, A-Ra still wanted to ask Jung-woo why he chose February 14th, the day of their divorce, as the founding date of his company. "Do you want to know why?" he said. "Because after you got out of my life, I received a huge investment. Isn't that miraculous? So, A-Ra, from now on, just shut up and disappear from my life." Hearing those heartless words, A-Ra was filled with rage. Her hands clenched tightly as she swore to take revenge on Jung-woo, the ungrateful man who had made her struggle to pay off debts for years. That day, when they walked out of the courthouse after their divorce, A-Ra hadn't even told him that she had miscarried from overworking, just so he wouldn't have to feel any more pressure. Now that Jung-woo was so successful yet treated her so coldly and cruelly, A-Ra couldn't accept it. She began plotting her revenge, and discussed it with her best friend. To get close to him, the only way was to apply for a job at his company. Seizing the chance, A-Ra decided to apply when the company announced recruitment. She prepared thoroughly and handled the interview questions smoothly. However, Seung-hyun, who was present, kept interrupting her intentionally, nearly causing her to lose her chance several times. So when she walked out, she called him over to confront him, asking why he had made things difficult for her. But instead of answering, he dodged the question and changed the subject, complimenting the scarf around her neck, which made her laugh and let it go. As she pressed the elevator button, the door opened, and there stood Jung-woo. Both of them were stunned to see each other again, after having just severed ties. Spotting the interview badge on A-Ra's chest, he immediately understood the reason, and called her aside to talk. There was one thing Jung-woo couldn't understand. With so many companies out there, why did she have to choose his? A-Ra said she had no degree, and no experience, so she couldn't get into other places. She didn't even have the chance to pass the first round elsewhere, so this was the only place she could come to, and she promised that once she gained enough experience, she would leave. However, Jung-woo still didn't want to have anything to do with his ex-wife unless she was willing to kneel down and beg him for a chance to enter the company. A-Ra originally wanted to throw away her pride and kneel, but her knees just couldn't touch the ground. Moreover, among the candidates who passed the interview, her name was indeed there. The moment Jung-woo saw it, he became furious, crumpled it up, and threw it into the trash. A-Ra, thinking she had been rejected, went to apply for other jobs, but was turned down for various reasons. On top of that, she even encountered an old lecher, so she had to leave empty-handed. Just when A-Ra was at her most desperate, she suddenly received a call informing her that she had passed the interview, which made her overjoyed. Even her best friend couldn't believe that A-Ra was really able to get into that company, despite Jung-woo having discovered her identity. The reason was that Jung-woo happened to see a dating show that A-Ra had participated in, where she complained on TV that she never wanted to see her wicked ex-husband again, which greatly annoyed him. He hurried into his office, rummaged through the trash to retrieve A-Ra's file, and put it back with the successful candidates, just to let her join the company and learn some manners. At the same time, the young master, the chairman's son, would also be joining the company. However, his older sister didn't allow Seung-hyun to reveal his true identity, and ordered him to complete a 3-month internship before being promoted. Seung-hyun and A-Ra worked in the same department, so he took the initiative to talk to her, saying he wanted them to work hard together, though A-Ra only saw him as a kid since he was 8 years younger. On the other side, Jung-woo kept pacing nervously, asking his assistant when it would be time to meet the new employees. He deliberately wanted to make a grand entrance in front of A-ra to show her that he was her superior. All the female employees admired Jung-woo, but she felt he was just overacting. Yet when she saw that bright smile, A-ra's heart once again skipped a beat, and she longed to reconcile with him. Not long after the car started moving, Jung-woo received bad news and hurried back to the company. A hacker had attacked the company's system, so the director had to personally take action to handle it. His subordinates suspected that there might be a traitor inside the company, but Jung-woo chose to trust his employees. As for A-ra, as soon as she arrived at the company, she faced the classic scene of a senior bullying a newcomer. The woman used her position to order A-ra to do heavy labor, like carrying water bottles, and told her that from now on, she would be in charge of replacing the office water. Moreover, before getting off work, she had to buy her a pair of stockings. Because A-ra was new to the company, she didn't dare resist, and could only obediently follow orders. Just then, a water delivery man arrived. Taking advantage of A-ra's distraction, he secretly stole her employee ID card. Since she was already being bossed around by her superior, when Sung-hyun arrived late, A-ra used her seniority as an excuse to scold him and assigned all the remaining work to him. Later, she tried to approach her ex-husband by asking him to meet her on the rooftop, but when Jung-woo arrived, he stood far away from A-ra, afraid others might suspect their relationship. The two only spoke through the phone. She wanted to thank him for accepting her into the company, but Jung-woo lied, saying that such minor matters were not within his authority. When it was time to get off work, the whole group invited each other to a dinner party. However, A-ra was stopped at the gate because she had lost her employee ID. Seeing this, Seung-hyun took out his own card and scanned it to help her. During the meal, people not only ate and drank, but also gossiped about their boss. They said Jung-woo's ex-wife had been dumped for cheating, and that she was addicted to gambling, even mortgaging her entire family's home. The more A-ra listened, the more absurd it sounded. She had no idea who spread such ridiculous rumors about her, and could only drink to forget. After the party ended, Sung-hyun saw that she was completely drunk and offered to take her home, but she refused, saying she had somewhere to go. The next morning, as soon as A-ra arrived at the company, she was forcibly taken away by security, confused, and not understanding what was happening. Her superiors suspected that A-ra was the one who had stolen the company's data. Even the surveillance footage had been neatly erased. However, only those with employee IDs could enter that room, and they discovered she was the last person who went in and out. Upon hearing this, A-ra immediately denied it, saying she had lost her ID long ago, but that answer only made them believe she was trying to cover up her crime, because A-ra had indeed gone to the company the night before, but she was too drunk to remember why she went there. Jung-woo, meanwhile, was also troubled, as he truly didn't want to believe A-ra could do something so serious. His assistant, however, was convinced that this was exactly why she had suddenly applied to the company, surely to take revenge on him. Everything was quickly cleared up when Jung-woo discovered that someone had scribbled on his car. He checked the dashcam footage and found out it was A-ra who did it. That was the reason she came to the company the previous night. Just as the manager was accusing A-ra, Jung-woo showed up to clear her name. Seeing the footage of herself drunk and acting foolishly, A-ra was so embarrassed she couldn't look anyone in the eye. Although she was proven innocent, she still had to wash Jung-woo's car. Meanwhile, Jung-woo sat in his office thinking, wondering what exactly she had written on his car. Was she calling him a dog? When A-ra got home, she told her best friend everything. Min-young felt that Jung-woo had saved A-ra from serious trouble this time, so she insisted that A-ra should thank and apologize to him for vandalizing his car. To get a chance to meet Jung-woo, A-ra secretly listened in on his schedule from his secretary. Learning that he had a meeting at 2 p.m., she hurried to wait by the elevator in advance. As expected, she ran into him. She wanted to take the opportunity to apologize, but Jung-woo deliberately used his phone to ignore her, walking away before she could say anything. When she returned to the office, her team leader announced that anyone who performed well on this project would earn a lunch with the director. Knowing this was her best chance to meet him, A-ra became determined to succeed no matter what. Meanwhile, Jung-woo visited a house in the suburbs, the very place he had once promised to build for A-ra, their dream home. At the same time, Yo-jin heard about A-ra drawing on Jung-woo's car and was very displeased with the new employee's attitude, so she summoned A-ra's team leader to scold her. The team leader, unwilling to be humiliated because of a mere intern like A-ra, decided to make things difficult for her by assigning her an impossible task: to win a luxury hotel buffet voucher through an auction. Many had tried before, but failed. If A-ra couldn't do it, she would be fired. As soon as Seung-hyun heard about it, he immediately volunteered to take on the task with her. The two quickly went to the hotel to meet the manager. A-ra used all her skills from her days as a marketing employee to negotiate with him, but it didn't seem very effective. She signaled for Seung-hyun beside her to help. Seeing that, he tried to persuade the manager himself, and the man said he would reconsider and contact them later. Meanwhile, their father finally learned that the older older brother had taken A-Ra's alimony money, so he confronted his son. While they were talking, their mother overheard everything. She immediately flew into a rage and threw Suchal out of the house. The father, feeling sorry for his son, secretly brought out his luggage, telling him to go somewhere and hide for a while until his mother calmed down before returning. As for A-Ra, she watched her co-workers leave after work but still didn't dare go home, as she was anxiously waiting for a call from the restaurant manager. Feeling suffocated, she went up to the rooftop for some fresh air. Unexpectedly, Yojin was there too, holding a can of beer. Knowing A-Ra was also in a bad mood, she offered her one. The two women chatted and confided in each other, and A-Ra learned that Yojin was in love with a man, but that he was rigid and only cared about work, which made her very sad. Hearing this, A-Ra enthusiastically encouraged Yojin to bravely pursue her love. Thanks to those encouraging words, Yojin gained the courage to go after him. She sent her driver home early so she could share a car ride with Jungwoo, lying that her car had broken down and needed repairs. Meanwhile, after a long wait, A-Ra finally received good news from the restaurant, and she excitedly ran to share it with her co-workers. The one who had secretly helped her was none other than Seung-hyun, who had used his personal connections to persuade the manager to change his mind. Thanks to that, A-Ra won the special dinner with the director. When the former couple met again, they acted like strangers, speaking only polite, distant words. A-Ra asked Jungwoo, "I once hurt someone in the past, and now I feel deep regret. Do you think I should try to make up with him?" When Jungwoo heard that, he sneered at A-Ra because it was already too late. "I think the things that happened in the past can no longer be changed, so even if you regret it, it's meaningless." When the dinner ended, Jungwoo drove A-Ra to a special place that completely surprised her. Everything on the table was in matching pairs because it was the dream house A-Ra had always imagined. There was even the fireplace she had long wished for, along with flower pots beautifully arranged inside the house. Everything had been personally prepared by Jungwoo to turn that dream into reality, moving A-Ra to tears. She thought he wanted to reconcile with her, but unexpectedly, the real reason he brought her there was revenge. He wanted her to see her dream house with her own eyes, a house she could never live in, while watching him enjoy happiness with his future wife. Someone who could share his hardships, unlike her, who had abandoned him. In his eyes, A-Ra only wanted to get back together because she was tempted by his enormous wealth. In the end, Jungwoo coldly walked away, leaving A-Ra heartbroken and sobbing silently. The secret about her miscarriage back then remained hidden, so he had no idea what A-Ra had gone through. After that incident, A-Ra decided to resign. At the company, she no longer had any energy or spirit left, but Seung-hyun was always the only one who noticed and cared about her. He even revealed that the scarf A-Ra always wore around her neck actually belonged to him. At that moment, she finally remembered. End quote. The one she had picked up was something Seung-hyun had dropped, and she realized that he was the kind-hearted man who had helped her gather her things. Moreover, to cheer her up, he took her out drinking and performed a bottle cap magic trick, successfully bringing back the smile that had disappeared from Aira's face. Just then, a man who saw her suddenly turned and tried to flee. Seung-hyun recognized him as someone he had seen at the company, so he quickly gave chase. Although the man resisted, he couldn't escape from Seung-hyun, who managed to hand him over to the police and recover the USB containing the crucial data. Fortunately, the man hadn't sold it yet, so all the data remained secure. Although it was Seung-hyun who made the major contribution this time, he gave all the credit to A-Ra so she could be commended by the senior executives. Even if Jungwoo wanted to avoid his ex-wife, he couldn't, and he was forced to step up, shake her hand, and praise her in front of everyone, much to A-Ra's delight. Later, the higher-ups specially invited her and Seung-hyun to a luxurious dinner at a fine restaurant. Everyone was cheerful and chatty, except for Jungwoo, who could barely swallow his food since he had to keep facing A-Ra. After a while, both Yojin and Seung-hyun had to leave, so only the two of them remained. They could finally talk freely without worrying about others overhearing. Jungwoo refused to acknowledge A-Ra's efforts and claimed she had just been lucky. Seeing him so shamelessly deny her hard work, even though she had suffered so much because of that thief, A-Ra became furious and called Jungwoo an ungrateful jerk, reminding him that she was the one who had just saved his company. Jungwoo was enraged by her words and wanted to argue back, but Yojin suddenly appeared, forcing him to swallow his anger. He now deeply regretted going to the police station to help A-Ra because their ill-fated connection was continuing once again. As for her, after that incident, she became even more determined to take revenge on him. She immediately posted all of Jungwoo's embarrassing photos online, but forgot that her resignation letter had not yet been withdrawn. Early the next morning, A-Ra rushed to the company to find it, but couldn't locate it anywhere, frantically searching all over. Unexpectedly, the letter was in Seung-hyun's hands. He had been keeping it, waiting for a chance to return it to her. At that moment, when Jungwoo arrived at the company, he suddenly noticed that his employees were looking at him differently than usual. Their eyes were no longer filled with admiration, but instead with stifled laughter. It turned out out that his old photos, Kraman's staff, from the time when he had a bowl-cut hairstyle, had been spread all over the internet, becoming a running joke among the staff. Looking back at his past appearance, Jung-woo felt nothing but embarrassment and wished he could erase it all. Through the IP address, he immediately discovered that A-Ra was the one behind it, so he called her to scold her. He threatened to take her to court, but she didn't care at all and continued to get back at him by buying a bouquet of lilies and approaching Jung-woo. Because he was severely allergic to them, just the scent of lilies would make his whole body itch. As a result, during a meeting, Jung-woo couldn't sit still and kept scratching himself, causing everyone to look at him with strange eyes. Not stopping there, A-Ra even diligently placed vases of lilies all around the office, determined to go all the way with her revenge. No matter how much Jung-woo tried to order her out, she completely ignored him. Desperate, he ambushed A-Ra and dragged her outside to talk, only to be bitten hard by her. By this point, Jung-woo couldn't stand it anymore and decided he had to fire A-Ra no matter what. He discussed it with Yo-jin, but she repeatedly rejected the idea because A-Ra had just made a huge contribution to the company. Left with no choice, he arranged to meet A-Ra privately and suggested that she resign, promising to give her a generous severance payment, but she flatly refused. A-Ra had grown to love her job, and besides, she hadn't yet tormented Jung-woo to her heart's content, so there was no way she would leave. Once again, he failed, so he felt extremely frustrated. He wanted to go out and survey the market a bit, so he invited Yo-jin to join him. The two squeezed onto the subway, watching as everyone was using their company's app, discussing what improvements they could make. When the train suddenly braked, Yo-jin fell into Jung-woo's arms, so he told her to just lean on him. Later, they went out drinking together, talking to get to know each other better. Thanks to that, Yo-jin grew closer to Jung-woo, which was a good sign for her. Meanwhile, A-Ra's team was assigned to survey small shops, but everywhere they went, they were turned down, failing to convince anyone after a long day. Seung-hyun started feeling hungry and didn't want to continue, so A-Ra invited him to her mother's restaurant. They had barely sat down when an aunt showed up, trying to set A-Ra up with a man who already had 2 children. Her mother, afraid Seung-hyun would hear, quickly chased the woman away, but her divorce couldn't be hidden anymore. A-Ra felt guilty for never mentioning it to anyone at work. She wanted to explain, but to Seung-hyun, A-Ra hadn't done anything wrong, so there was no need to explain. After they returned, their superior asked if any shops had agreed to join their program. Seung-hyun quickly mentioned A-Ra's family restaurant to help it out of its slump. Shortly after, they were called to Yo-jin's office. To thank them for their efforts, she announced that they would both be promoted. Right after their discussion, A-Ra went out first, leaving only Seung-hyun behind. While he was talking with his sister, their team leader happened to overhear from outside and was shocked to discover that her intern was actually the director's younger brother. Because of that, she began favoring Seung-hyun more, quickly approving the business plan he and A-Ra had submitted, which made them both very happy and eager to start promoting A-Ra's family restaurant. Sales on the delivery app quickly skyrocketed, something the whole team hadn't expected. To celebrate, the team leader invited everyone out for a party. They went to a karaoke bar and sang joyfully together. Not long after, Yo-jin arrived with Jung-woo to join the fun. A-Ra, wanting to use the opportunity to embarrass Jung-woo, invited him to sing. Knowing well that Jung-woo was tone-deaf and terrible at singing, she thought it would be funny. But unexpectedly, Yo-jin went up to duet with him. After 3 years apart, A-Ra was surprised to see how much her ex-husband had changed. Even his singing had improved. Watching the two of them sing together like a perfect, talented couple, A-Ra suddenly felt lonely and out of place, as if she no longer matched Jung-woo. Her eyes welled up with tears, but she held them back by drinking heavily. Later, someone asked Jung-woo about his ex-wife, why he hadn't remarried yet. Was he afraid she would scold him again? Jung-woo bluntly replied that she's not worthy, which deeply hurt A-Ra because it showed how little he thought of her. In front of everyone, A-Ra said that his ex-wife had sacrificed so much for him, working 3 or 4 jobs at once. But to Jung-woo, A-Ra was never that kind of good woman. Jung-woo denied everything, which made her furious. Watching him walk away, A-Ra couldn't accept it and ran after him to stop him, only to end up throwing up all over him. Even after getting into his car to leave, he was still genuinely worried about her. In the past, whenever A-Ra got drunk, he was always the one by her side, even sacrificing his briefcase for her to vomit into. But now, it was Seung-hyun who took A-Ra home and told her best friend to look after her. At that time, business at A-Ra's family restaurant was thriving, with customers coming non-stop, but her father caused a major problem. He accidentally unplugged the refrigerator, nearly spoiling all the food inside. Fortunately, her mother noticed in time and rushed to scold him, but a customer happened to overhear their argument. Not long after, someone called the company to complain, claiming they had eaten spoiled food and had to be hospitalized. The person wanted to escalate the matter, leaving the team leader extremely troubled. She hurried to Yojin's office for help, but Yojin wasn't there, only Jung-woo. Meanwhile, Aira received an urgent call and rushed to the hospital to check on the man. His body was covered in rashes and looked serious, so he wasn't willing to let it go. Even though none of the other customers that day had any issues, which made Aira suspicious, she still wanted to take responsibility. Just then, her parents and brother showed up with gifts to apologize to the man. Aira quickly pulled them outside, urging them to go home and let her handle things on her own. But in her frustration, she accidentally said something that angered her mother, who slapped her across the face. Jung-woo, who had just arrived at the hospital, witnessed the scene and felt a deep ache in his heart for Aira. The team leader and manager accompanied her to apologize to the man, and Aira even knelt down, begging him to let it go and not report the incident to the media. But the man insisted on meeting the director. During their confrontation, the glass of water spilled straight onto Jung-woo's face, shocking everyone. Seeing Aira kneeling on the floor, Jung-woo couldn't help but feel heartbroken. He told her to step outside and let him handle everything himself. Because he was busy negotiating with the victim, Jung-woo forgot his promise to attend Yojin's birthday party, leaving the chairman and everyone waiting for a long time without being able to reach him. Meanwhile, the man finally agreed to drop the matter. With compensation equal to a year's salary for an average worker, Aira, anxiously waiting outside, finally received the reassuring news. This time, her whole family was indebted to Jung-woo. Only then did he have time to contact Yojin. She was overjoyed to get his call. Even though it was already midnight, Jung-woo still wanted to go celebrate her birthday. As for Aira, she returned home completely exhausted, both physically and emotionally. After everything that happened, she was truly grateful to Jung-woo and felt guilty for teasing him with the lilies before. Meanwhile, Jung-woo was now at the chairman's house, celebrating Yojin's birthday with the family. Seung-hyun wanted to capture the moment, so he brought out his camera and told the two to sit close together for a picture, making both Yojin and Jung-woo feel shy. After dinner, Jung-woo got the chance to visit her room and gave Yojin a necklace as a gift. Sitting together, neither knew what to talk about, so Jung-woo started complimenting a photo hanging on the wall. It suddenly reminded her of the past, when she had once married a foreign man. However, because her father strongly opposed the relationship and kept sending people to track them down, the two had to live on the run. Unfortunately, they were involved in an accident that took the life of her newlywed husband. Yojin lost one of her legs, leaving her in unbearable pain and despair. Not long after, the results of Jung-woo's investigation on that man came in, revealing that he had lied. Jung-woo didn't want to let it go, but he also couldn't directly tell Aira himself, so he used Seung-hyun as a way to let her learn the man's true nature. In the video recorded by Seung-hyun, the man could be seen visiting the restaurant, but leaving before eating because of other business. Aira brought that footage to the hospital to confront him, leaving the man with no room to deny it. This time, it was his turn to beg Aira for forgiveness, but it was too late. The company's lawyer would soon make sure he paid the price. After the storm came sunshine again. Aira's family restaurant was finally cleared of wrongdoing, so the whole family held a celebration. It was also a good opportunity for Aira and her mother to reconcile. Everyone became close again, and even Seung-hyun grew more familiar with her family. Though all the credit belonged to Jung-woo, he never appeared or took any recognition. Yet that alone was enough to make Aira think of him day and night, reminiscing about the beautiful times they once shared and wishing to repair their broken relationship. When she met him again at the company, Aira noticed a loose thread on Jung-woo's jacket and gently brushed it off. Everyone who saw was surprised that she dared to touch the director, but Jung-woo didn't complain. Instead, he politely thanked her for helping him. As he walked away, he accidentally dropped a small piece of paper. Aira eagerly picked it up, thinking it was a letter meant for her, but it turned out to be nothing more than a coffee receipt. At that time, Aira's mother had prepared a large pot of beef bone soup to thank her former son-in-law. She planned to have her son deliver it to the company, but her husband suggested letting Aira bring it herself so the two could reconcile more easily. Sucheol thought it was a great idea and brought the soup to his sister, even revealing that it was actually Jung-woo who had uncovered the truth about the man faking his illness to deceive them. The more Aira learned about what Jung-woo had quietly done for her, the more grateful she felt. She arranged to meet him on the rooftop to express her thanks, but they only ended up talking over the phone. Aira decided that after her 3-month internship, she would resign so she wouldn't bother Jung-woo anymore. However, he didn't believe her, which angered A-Ra. She stormed straight to Jung-woo's office, demanding to know why he always doubted her and treated her like a gold digger, leaving her deeply hurt. Jung-woo still resented A-Ra for abandoning him when he was at his lowest point, so the love they once promised each other felt like nothing but a lie to him. Their heated argument was overheard by Yo-jin, who happened to be nearby. She was shocked to discover that A-Ra was actually Jung-woo's ex-wife. Although A-Ra was still angry, she didn't forget to hand over the bag of food from her mother to Jung-woo. When he brought it home, his assistant couldn't stop praising how delicious it looked, and asked if Jung-woo wanted to share it. He made an excuse about watching his weight to refuse, but after seeing how appetizing it was, he eventually sat down and ate a bowl. Talking about his former mother-in-law's cooking skills reminded him of the time he lived with A-Ra. Every morning, she would wake up early to prepare a hearty breakfast for him. Hearing that, the assistant couldn't help but comment that such diligent and caring women were truly rare nowadays. Meanwhile, at the company, the team leader introduced a new project, but there were several English terms that A-Ra didn't understand, so she had to ask repeatedly, which made her female co-workers look down on her. Because of that, Seung-hyun tried to comfort her. He shaped a tangerine peel into a little figure and gave it to her, but A-Ra, being naive, thought it was food and put it in her mouth. To Seung-hyun, that moment made her seem incredibly cute. Later, the whole team went out drinking together. The team leader once again asked if anyone had suggestions for improving the app. That made A-Ra recall the time she had texted her boyfriend to come over while her parents were away, but accidentally sent the message to her mother, who rushed home and caught them red-handed. So she suggested adding a feature to delete mistakenly sent messages. As soon as the idea came up, Jung-woo found it interesting, since it reminded him of something similar that had happened to him in the past, and he immediately approved it for development. Later, Yo-jin attended a meeting with a business partner on Jung-woo's behalf, but the man's true intention turned out to be seducing her, rather than discussing business. He even used her insecurity about her prosthetic leg to persuade her to marry him, claiming few men would accept a wife with a physical flaw. How could Yo-jin possibly live with such a vile man? She flatly rejected him, and, seeing Jung-woo arrive, quickly grabbed his arm and said he was her fiancé. Jung-woo, completely unaware of what was happening, stood there confused, while the man sneered, saying Jung-woo had only risen to his current position thanks to women. Feeling humiliated, Jung-woo punched him, but that only made Yo-jin misunderstand. She thought he did it to protect her. Touched, she felt even more drawn to him. While tending to his wound, she carefully asked, "If I had a secret that I couldn't tell anyone, would you mind?" His simple reply, "Everyone has secrets," gave her even more hope. Meanwhile, Seung-hyun took A-Ra to his house, to his mother's art room, which his father had just smashed to pieces in anger. Hearing that, A-Ra immediately offered to help Seung-hyun, even steadying him so he wouldn't lose balance while fixing the light bulb. That close contact only made Seung-hyun's feelings for her grow stronger. Because they were busy cleaning up, the two came back late. The team leader scolded A-Ra, but Seung-hyun quickly spoke up for her. Since he was the chairman's son, the leader cheerfully let it slide as if nothing had happened. Right after that, A-Ra received a message from Jung-woo. As usual, they met on the rooftop, and this time he wanted to return the bag to her. He also asked A-Ra to tell her mother not to make food for him anymore. Though his words were tangled with mixed emotions, while he was still talking non-stop, he turned around only to realize she had disappeared. A-Ra quietly walked away and happened to run into Yo-jin, who had just finished work. Out of kindness, Yo-jin offered her a ride, and took the chance to probe whether A-Ra and Jung-woo were still secretly seeing each other. Yo-jin was genuinely worried that if they kept meeting every day like that, feelings would inevitably grow between them. Indeed, at that moment, Jung-woo was also talking about A-Ra with Seung-hyun. Though he didn't directly tell him who his ex-wife was, deep down, he still thought about her. He still hadn't forgotten how A-Ra used lilies to mess with him. The next day at the company, the team leader praised a female colleague for coming up with a new idea that improved the company's software. But that idea actually belonged to A-Ra and was stolen by Song-hee herself. The team leader knew about it but deliberately ignored it, which made A-Ra even more disappointed. Song-hee even acted arrogantly, telling A-Ra, as a junior, to know her place and congratulate her instead. Unwilling to be bullied, A-Ra demanded an apology from Song-hee, which led to a conflict between them. By accident, Song-hee fell to the ground just as Jung-woo was passing by, making him misunderstand that his ex-wife was causing trouble in his company. He immediately called her aside to reprimand her, ignoring how wronged she felt. She tried to explain the situation, but Jung-woo still thought she was just making excuses for her bad temper, just like when she had abandoned him. After being scolded, A-Ra was in no mood to work. That colleague kept sending her annoying messages, and even invited everyone to dinner except A-Ra. The team leader made things worse by intentionally assigning her extra work, so she would have to work overtime and couldn't join the dinner. Working alone until midnight, A-Ra began to feel hungry, and went out to buy some food. Unexpectedly, Unexpectedly, she ran into Jung-woo in the elevator. Coincidentally, both of them were working late. Although Jung-woo outwardly acted indifferent toward A-ra, he still wanted to buy her some late-night food. However, Sung-hyun pretended to go out to eat with everyone, but secretly came back to the office to help A-ra. Seeing the two of them together, Jung-woo felt a surge of frustration and quietly walked away. The next day, everyone suggested that Jung-woo should be the model to promote their software. He was supposed to take photos with the person who had proposed the project earlier, but ironically, Song-hee missed the chance to shoot with her idol because she happened to have an allergic reaction at that exact time. As a result, the opportunity was given to someone else, and that person was A-ra. Although both of them were reluctant, they still had to cooperate pleasantly until the photo shoot ended. The director even praised their chemistry, saying it seemed as if they had worked together before. The shoot soon reached its final stage. The director ordered the fans to be turned on, but the wind was too strong, blowing everything around. The string holding a decorative ball snapped, and Jung-woo, unable to hold it, saw A-ra standing right beside him. Fearing it would fall on her, he rushed forward to protect her. Unfortunately, a nearby pole collapsed and fell on him, leaving him seriously injured. Terrified, A-ra followed the ambulance to the hospital and stayed by his bedside, worried and unwilling to leave. Even when the assistant told her to go home and rest, she still wanted to stay and take care of him. However, the sight of him lying unconscious brought back a painful memory. Back then, because she had overworked herself, she lost the baby she was carrying. Her close friend had tried to call Jung-woo, but he didn't answer the phone and wasn't there to comfort his wife when she needed him most. That was why A-ra decided to divorce him. The next morning, Yo-jin learned about Jung-woo's accident from his assistant. She rushed to the hospital, only to find A-ra there, so she tried every way to drive her out. Although A-ra just wanted to wait until Jung-woo woke up to say hello, only a few seconds after she left, Jung-woo opened his eyes. Seeing Yo-jin in front of him, he assumed she was the one who had taken care of him through the night. After that, Yo-jin used work as an excuse to ask A-ra to go with her to choose gifts of appreciation for clients, then asked her to pick a present for someone special on her behalf. A-ra knew that person was the man Yo-jin liked, so she enthusiastically chose a necktie for her and encouraged Yo-jin to pursue him. To thank A-ra, the director invited her to dinner at a fancy restaurant and deliberately invited Jung-woo as well, intending to give him that tie in front of A-ra. Unfortunately, he didn't show up because he received an urgent call from his mother, saying that Jung-woo's father was in critical condition and wanted to see A-ra one last time. So he waited until A-ra came out, told her everything, and went with her to visit his father. Sadly, his father couldn't hold on any longer. He passed away before he could see the daughter-in-law he had cherished the most. His sudden death left the whole family devastated, especially Jung-woo, who, despite being a strong man, completely broke down in the face of such a great loss, and A-ra stayed by his side, giving him a shoulder to lean on. Not long after, their colleagues at the company also heard that the director's father had passed away. They all went to pay their respects and wondered why A-ra wasn't there, since she had told them she took leave for family matters instead of attending an important client meeting that day. But when they arrived at the director's house, they were stunned to see A-ra busy helping with the funeral arrangements. Everyone was shocked and asked why she was there, leaving A-ra flustered because she couldn't reveal her relationship with Jung-woo. They thought A-ra was cunning, deliberately coming to curry favor with the director to secure a full-time position. Jung-woo's sister-in-law nearby was furious when she heard. She had always despised A-ra for divorcing Jung-woo when he was poor, and now that he was successful, she believed A-ra was clinging to him again. So the sister-in-law forced A-ra to quit her job and stay as far away from Jung-woo as possible. Just then, Jung-woo appeared, stopped his sister-in-law, and pulled A-ra away, but the woman still said that his father's stroke was related to her. A-ra didn't understand what she meant and asked Jung-woo, who then told her that 3 years ago, right after hearing about their divorce, his father had been so shocked that he suffered a stroke. A-ra had never known about this. She burst into tears, believing she had caused his condition. Seeing her cry, Jung-woo felt heartbroken and comforted her, saying it wasn't her fault. At that moment, Yo-jin came looking for Jung-woo and saw the two of them together, then quietly returned to the funeral hall. When Jung-woo's mother learned that Yo-jin was the daughter of an investor in her son's company and was still single, she warmly welcomed her and hoped to match the two together. But Jung-woo's eyes were fixed only on A-ra. Though they couldn't express it in words, both of them understood what the other was feeling. Seung-hyun also soon realized that A-ra's feelings for Jung-woo weren't ordinary, but she seemed insecure and hesitant to move forward. He quickly pulled her aside to ask if she was in love with Jung-woo. Unexpectedly, a co-worker interrupted them, urging them them to get in the car and return. Since he hadn't received an answer, Seung-hyun later asked A-ra to meet him on the rooftop again, and directly questioned whether she liked the director. But A-ra quickly denied it, saying she had no feelings for him at all. Hearing that, Seung-hyun finally felt relieved. Even so, her superior continued to pile on work for A-ra, forcing her to stay late at the office for overtime. Meanwhile, Yeojin was having dinner with Jung-woo. She didn't forget to give him the gift A-ra had chosen, and she successfully won his favor, making him believe that the person who had taken care of him in the hospital was Yeojin. Later, Jung-woo returned to the office and happened to see A-ra working overtime. Thinking she probably hadn't eaten yet, he decided to have dinner with her. However, the food she had prepared was all fast food, with little nutrition, which made him genuinely worried about her unhealthy lifestyle. After finishing their meal, they sat together watching the commercial video and joking around just like when they were still married. For a brief moment, they forgot that they had been divorced for a long time. When Jung-woo fell asleep, A-ra gently took off his socks and covered him with a blanket, caring for him like a wife would for her husband. She only wanted to leave after finishing her 3-month internship, but she accidentally noticed that Jung-woo was wearing the tie she had picked out for Yeojin. That was when she realized the man Yeojin liked was none other than her ex-husband. Seeing A-ra looking dejected, Seung-hyun tried to cheer her up by joking around, but that scene happened to fall right into Jung-woo's sight, stirring up his jealousy once again. At home, he couldn't stop thinking about it, so much that he didn't even notice the glass of water overflowing. His assistant had to remind him before he snapped out of it, yet he still couldn't calm down and asked, "If your own brother likes your ex-girlfriend, what should you do? Isn't that kind of unreasonable?" The assistant immediately guessed that he was talking about Seung-hyun and A-ra, and teased his boss, saying it was obvious he was jealous, but still trying to act otherwise. While Jung-woo was feeling restless and uneasy, Seung-hyun decided to take action. He brought A-ra to a bar and personally played a piano piece, completely captivating her with the melody. Unable to hold back his emotions, Jung-woo rushed to A-ra's house, only to see Seung-hyun dropping her off at the door, which made him even more frustrated. The next day, the company organized an outdoor seminar. Sitting at the front, Jung-woo couldn't take his eyes off A-ra and Seung-hyun below, watching everything they did. The more he saw them laughing together, the more displeased he became. Later, everyone participated in a game. A-ra lost, so she had to chase the others. She ran after Seung-hyun, but accidentally slipped, and he caught her just in time. Seeing his ex-wife fall into another man's arms, Jung-woo wanted to rush over but forced himself to stay calm, pretending not to see anything. In the end, he still joined the game, determined not to let Seung-hyun get too close to A-ra. He deliberately ran ahead to touch her first, making A-ra chase after him, instead of someone else. That evening, everyone gathered for a tarot card reading. The team leader told A-ra that she was being pursued by 2 men at the same time, and was stuck in a tiring love triangle. Jung-woo carefully observed and felt that the reading was surprisingly accurate, yet when invited to join, he claimed he didn't believe in such superstitions. Still, a little later, he secretly went to the team leader to have his own reading done. Unfortunately, Yeojin appeared at that exact moment, so he didn't hear the result. Jung-woo went outside to talk with her, and accidentally discovered that Seung-hyun had arranged to meet A-ra somewhere. Guessing that the kid was going to confess his feelings to his ex-wife, Jung-woo was determined to stop him at all costs. He hurried to where everyone was, using the excuse of needing to buy rice wine for the party, to drag A-ra along, deliberately stalling her so she couldn't meet Seung-hyun. Meanwhile, Seung-hyun was preparing a romantic dinner table to confess to A-ra, but she still hadn't shown up, because Jung-woo kept pulling her from one store to another, pretending to search for a specific kind of rice wine he had completely made up. After being dragged around for so long, A-ra lost her patience and left first. Seeing that, Jung-woo rushed to follow her, and even pretended to hurt his leg to keep her from leaving. When that didn't work, he switched to pretending his shoulder hurt, forcing A-ra to stay with him, and preventing her from going to Seung-hyun. Then, a delivery worker called Jung-woo, and since he was pretending to be injured, he asked A-ra to receive it for him. When she came back, she saw Yeojin standing beside him, so she quietly left. Upon returning, A-ra found Seung-hyun cleaning up the table alone, and curiously asked what all of it was for. Realizing that if he didn't confess now, he might never get another chance, Seung-hyun poured his heart out and confessed his love to her. But A-ra couldn't accept his feelings because of the age gap between them. Moreover, she was a divorced woman, while Seung-hyun was still single and inexperienced. As she tried to leave quickly, Seung-hyun suddenly pulled her into his arms. "A-ra, please listen to me. Everything that makes you angry, everything that that makes you cry, and everything that you love. I want to experience all of it with you. But in the end, A-Ra still couldn't accept Seung-hyun's feelings. She noticed Jung-woo watching them from a distance, so she quickly pushed Seung-hyun's hand away and walked off. Yet that did nothing to calm the storm inside Jung-woo. Filled with disappointment, he quietly drove away from the campsite without anyone noticing. When Yeojin later received news that there was a problem with the server, she hurriedly searched for him with everyone else, but couldn't find him anywhere. None of them knew where the director might have gone, except for A-Ra. As expected, when she arrived at the dream house they once shared, she found him there, alone, drowning in sorrow because he couldn't fulfill his dream of having a complete family with the woman he loved. When A-Ra came to urge Jung-woo to return because something had happened at the company, he asked whether she was worried about him or about the company's director. Without hesitation, A-Ra said she was worried about the director because wasn't the company the most important thing to him. Though she said that out of concern for Jung-woo, he saw her as heartless toward him and even told her to go back. The next day at work, even after being rejected, Seung-hyun still cheerfully interacted with A-Ra and even bought her ice cream. Seeing that things couldn't go on like this, she pulled him up to the rooftop to talk things through, hoping that Seung-hyun would stop pursuing her in vain and that they could remain good friends. However, no matter what she said, he wouldn't listen and insisted that he would keep confessing until A-Ra accepted him. At that moment, Jung-woo was secretly eavesdropping from behind the door and heard everything. Naturally, he wouldn't let the other man have his way, so he deliberately assigned A-Ra more work, forcing her to stay late at the office so she wouldn't have a chance to meet Seung-hyun. Halfway through, A-Ra tried to sneak out but was caught by Jung-woo, who immediately made her go back. If she didn't finish her work tonight, he wouldn't let her go home, so she had no choice but to send a message apologizing to Seung-hyun. Although he had prepared a gift to celebrate A-Ra's birthday, she was forced to sit in Jung-woo's office, working under his supervision, which made her feel irritated inside, blaming him for being heartless and not even remembering what day it was. But when she saw that he had bought her a bowl of seaweed soup, she was delighted to realize that her ex-husband hadn't forgotten her birthday. However, rumors began spreading in the company that the director and Yeojin were dating, and Yeojin didn't deny it, as if subtly declaring her claim over him in front of A-Ra. A-Ra, on the other hand, worried that if Yeojin found out about her past with Jung-woo, she would be hurt, so she wanted to send Jung-woo a message to ask whether Yeojin knew yet, but she changed her mind and recalled the message. When Jung-woo opened his phone and saw the recalled message, his curiosity grew, and he decided to call A-Ra up to the rooftop to ask her directly. But A-Ra only said she had sent it by mistake. Hearing that, Jung-woo thought she had sent something suspicious to Seung-hyun and kept pressing her for answers. But in the middle of it, his phone ran out of battery, so he couldn't hear what A-Ra was saying. Because of that, he forcefully pulled her into his office. Unexpectedly, his mother and sister-in-law suddenly came to visit. If they found out that he and A-Ra were still meeting, it would surely cause trouble. Panicking, Jung-woo dragged A-Ra into the room, found a place for her to hide, and quickly went out to greet them. The reason they came was to demand that he fire A-Ra immediately. His mother believed that A-Ra was a gold digger, trying to cling to her successful ex-husband, and even insulted A-Ra's parents, which deeply hurt her when she overheard it. However, Jung-woo defended A-Ra, which made his mother furious. She went straight to A-Ra's parents' house to scold them, complaining that A-Ra had no shame, kept clinging to her wealthy ex-husband, and was a jinx. Otherwise, how could Jung-woo have become so successful after divorcing her? Hearing such insults toward her daughter, A-Ra's mother couldn't hold back. Enraged, she shouted at them and kicked them out of the house, then called A-Ra, demanding that she quit her job immediately, rather than stay involved with those people. When A-Ra found out that Jung-woo's mother had gone to bother her parents, she was extremely upset and called Jung-woo to tell him that she would definitely resign in 3 months and would no longer cause him any trouble. Therefore, she asked him not to let his mother disturb her family again. When she returned home, she was surprised to see that Seung-hyun was still waiting for her there, bringing a birthday cake. Her best friend Min-young was thrilled that Seung-hyun had come. They all joined in making scented candles for Min-young's shop. When she asked Seung-hyun to get her more wax, he accidentally found a photo album nearby. Out of curiosity, he opened it and unexpectedly discovered A-Ra's long-hidden secret. Inside were her wedding photos with Jung-woo. The next day, Jung-woo himself came to A-Ra's house with a gift to apologize for his mother's rude words. However, Mrs. Kang was still angry and refused to accept the apology. She also revealed to Jung-woo that after the divorce, A-Ra had continued helping him pay off his debts, and even though Soo-chol took her alimony money, she never once complained. Those were all things he had never known. Now that Jung-woo realized how much A-ra had sacrificed for him, he felt even more guilty toward her. As he quietly left, he unexpectedly ran into Seung-hyun at the door. Neither of them needed to say anything. They both knew exactly why the other was there. Jung-woo didn't hesitate to admit that he was A-ra's ex-husband, while Seung-hyun openly confessed that he liked her, and even brought a painting he had made himself to express his feelings. Hearing that, Jung-woo was startled, and tried to forbid his close junior from dating his ex-wife, but it was in vain. So he snatched the painting and ran off, with Seung-hyun chasing after him to get it back. Even if Jung-woo tried to stop him, it was meaningless, because Jung-woo and A-ra were already divorced and had no ties anymore, so there was no reason to stop Seung-hyun from pursuing her. That night, A-ra and her mother finally had the chance to sleep beside each other. A-ra comforted her mother, knowing how hurt she was by her in-laws' cruel words, and asked her not to resent Jung-woo, because everything she had silently endured for him was something he had never known. At that moment, Jung-woo was deeply remorseful after learning how much A-ra had sacrificed for him. To make it up to her in some way, he helped Soo-cheol find a stable job so that he would no longer rely on A-ra's alimony. Of course, this had to be kept completely secret. Meanwhile, the team leader assigned A-ra to prepare a proposal for the hotel she had previously contacted. It was an important project, and if any mistakes occurred under her responsibility, she could be fired. When Seung-hyun overheard his co-workers gossiping about it, he became even more worried for her. He had originally been forced to join the company, and wanted to find a way to quit, but now, because of A-ra, he decided to stay and help her. While the two of them were at the parking lot, A-ra suddenly saw her brother arriving with Jung-woo, and immediately went over to ask Soo-cheol why he was there, leaving both of them flustered. Jung-woo took the chance to slip away, only to find Seung-hyun there as well. Realizing they had come together, his jealousy flared up again, and he kept picking fights to make Seung-hyun stop pursuing A-ra. But Seung-hyun mocked him for being old, and said he didn't stand a chance against him. As a result, the two decided to compete to see who was stronger. Soo-cheol acted as the referee but clearly sided with Jung-woo, making Seung-hyun unwilling to accept defeat and demanding a push-up contest. They both struggled, doing push-ups to see who was more deserving of A-ra, while she just wanted it all to end so she could go home. That night, A-ra had to work overtime at the office. Jung-woo stayed nearby, wanting to do something to help her, but he was afraid he might just get in her way. Right at that moment, her computer malfunctioned, and the proposal she had worked so hard on suddenly disappeared. But Jung-woo immediately jumped in to show off. With just a few quick operations, he managed to restore the file, making A-ra look at him with admiration. After finishing the proposal, the two of them went up to the rooftop to enjoy some coffee. Under the peaceful night sky, Jung-woo took the opportunity to apologize to A-ra, saying he wanted to make up for all the years she had endured. However, A-ra said she no longer needed his apology, because everything she did back then had been her own choice, and she didn't want any compensation from him now. Suddenly, it began to rain, and they both hurried inside. Seeing A-ra soaked, Jung-woo quickly grabbed a towel to dry her off, but his hands accidentally touched places he shouldn't have. Even though they had once been husband and wife, things were different now, so A-ra felt very embarrassed and wanted to end it quickly. She grabbed an umbrella and left first. The next day, Jung-woo used a terrorism drill as an excuse to get closer to her, and deliberately didn't inform the staff beforehand. At exactly 2 p.m., the loudspeaker suddenly blared, causing panic as everyone rushed to escape. While A-ra was still confused about what was happening, Jung-woo pulled her into a corner to hide, lying to her that there was a terrifying terrorist attack so she would stay close to him. Since she had never participated in such drills before, she completely believed him. When the announcement finally said the drill was over, she realized she had been tricked and angrily kicked Jung-woo hard. Because he had made A-ra angry, Jung-woo's stress-induced stomach condition flared up again. Just then, he ran into manager Kang, known as the company's broadcast speaker. So Jung-woo deliberately complained that his stomach hurt so badly he couldn't eat, knowing Kang would spread the news around, and it would eventually reach A-ra. As expected, the manager went back and told everyone in the department, and of course, A-ra heard about it too. She remembered that whenever Jung-woo had a stomachache in the past, he would eat fermented rice porridge, so she intentionally mentioned it to the manager. Jung-woo eagerly waited, thinking A-ra would be the one to come, but to his disappointment, it was the manager who showed up instead. Moreover, the manager couldn't manage to cook it properly after a long while, so he had to ask A-ra for help. At that time, Seung-hyun was sitting next to her and overheard everything. Naturally, He wouldn't let Ira go there alone, so he followed her, determined not to give the two of them any time together. Not long after they arrived, Ira received bad news from her best friend. Their apartment had caught fire, and she had to rush back immediately. Seung-hyun also wanted to go with her, and on the way out, they happened to run into Yeojin, who was also on her way, because she was worried about Young-woo. When Ira returned, the apartment had been completely burned, and the cause turned out to be her clumsy brother. Furious, she exploded, as Sucheol had caused her trouble countless times before, yet her best friend still defended him. For now, they needed to find another place to stay, and Seung-hyun suggested that Ira move into his mother's art studio. Yeojin, on the other hand, no longer wanted to hide her feelings. She openly admitted that she had long known about the relationship between Jung-woo and Ira. But didn't the two of you already end things? I just want to ask Jung-woo to give me a chance to be by his side. At that time, Seung-hyun also had something on his mind that he wanted to share with Ira. Although his family was wealthy, it was far from happy. His mother was like a crane trapped in a gilded cage, imprisoned by his father's blind, possessive love. What she longed for most was freedom. It wasn't until Seung-hyun was born that his father began to loosen his control, and that was when she left and never came back. Because of that, he and his sister never truly received their mother's love. When Ira learned that behind Seung-hyun's bright and cheerful demeanor was such a painful story, she felt deep sympathy for him. She let him hug her to ease the loneliness in his heart. Meanwhile, his father secretly arranged a meeting between his daughter and Jung-woo without telling her beforehand. He wanted to discuss marriage on Yeojin's behalf without ever asking for her opinion. Seeing that her father was once again trying to control her life, Yeojin lost her composure and smashed a flower pot in anger. She could no longer hold back her emotions. Do you want him to find out that I'm disabled, then use money to force Jung-woo to marry me? Or are you going to tell him that since I helped him succeed, he should repay me in this way? Why do you always do everything your own way, making me feel exhausted every single day I live with you? Or is it because you're afraid that when you grow old, there will be no one left by your side? Those words were heartbreaking. Seeing Yeojin acting so defiant, the chairman became furious and was about to slap her, but fortunately, Jung-woo appeared in time to stop him. He quickly took Yeojin back to her room to help her calm down, but she kept crying and begged him to stay until she fell asleep. By midnight, Jung-woo finally returned home, exhausted. He still couldn't stop worrying about the fire at Ara's house, so he called her. But before they could say much, Ara quickly hung up. Not long after, the old friends from their neighborhood held a reunion at Ara's restaurant. Among them was a man who used to pursue her, but Jung-woo had won her heart first. Now reunited, he and Ara politely greeted each other. Outside, Jung-woo hesitated, unsure whether he should go in, since meeting his ex-wife and their old friends would surely lead to awkward questions. After some thought, he decided to go in confidently, and everyone welcomed him warmly. Luckily, no one brought up his divorce. However, once that man got drunk, he started bothering Ara, insisting they should start over even though she kept refusing. His persistence angered Jung-woo, who stormed in, ready to punch him, but Ara stopped him. She didn't want either of them to get into trouble, and told Jung-woo not to interfere in her personal life anymore. She felt that it was time for them to end things completely. Moreover, that very day, Yeojin personally asked Ara to meet her. To win Jung-woo over, she didn't hesitate to tell Ara about the accident that had taken her fiancé's life and left her with a prosthetic leg for the rest of her life. That way, she could gain Ara's sympathy and convince her to back off. Yeojin even made her believe that all the help Jung-woo had given her was nothing more than pity for his ex-wife. Not long after, it was finally the day of Ara's presentation for the project she had been preparing. When she proposed adding a commemorative photo session for couples, the shareholders began to object, claiming it would be too costly. Moreover, they argued that someone who had never been married like Ara couldn't possibly know what wives would want most. Everyone looked down on her proposal, making Ara glance toward Jung-woo, who nodded in support of her. Encouraged by his gesture, Ara boldly admitted that she had once been married and had once been a wife, surprising all her colleagues who had always thought she was single. She told the shareholders, "What wives cherish most is the love their husbands show them, not how expensive or luxurious the gift is. That's why even a simple commemorative photo session can bring them immense happiness." Indeed, Ara's words and her heartfelt dedication to the project moved the partners. They loved the idea and agreed to make it an annual event during the wedding season. When the team leader received the news, she was overjoyed and shared it with everyone. Ara was truly happy that her hard work had finally been recognized. However, Song-hee, who had always been been jealous of her, couldn't stand seeing A-Ra in the spotlight. She secretly persuaded the team leader to let her take charge of the remaining work, arguing that A-Ra was just a mere intern who might be dismissed after 3 months anyway. These words eventually reached Jung-woo, angering him greatly. He gave both Song-hee and the team leader a stern lesson for making A-Ra work overtime until midnight again and again. The moment Jung-woo saw A-Ra standing nearby, he pointed upward, signaling her to come up to the rooftop to meet him. The two continued talking to each other over the phone. This time, Jung-woo wanted to take the chance of A-Ra's project success as a perfect opportunity to express his feelings for her. He invited her to have dinner together. But, remembering Yeojin's words, see that all of this might just be pity, A-Ra refused, even though Jung-woo kept saying he would wait until she arrived. Later, Seung-hyun took A-Ra to meet the hotel director. Having observed her for a while, he realized A-Ra was truly talented and wanted to recruit her to his company. Moreover, it was also a good chance for her to leave Jung-woo's company. Meanwhile, Jung-woo waited endlessly at the restaurant, but A-Ra never showed up. He even fell asleep and was awakened by the staff when it was closing time. Jung-woo went home frustrated and couldn't sleep. He called A-Ra, but before he could say much, she hung up. The stress made his stomach hurt, and in the middle of the night, he had to rush to the hospital. The doctor said Jung-woo was suffering from love sickness, something no medicine could cure, but he kept denying it. The next morning, he angrily went to find A-Ra to ask why she hadn't shown up, but accidentally ran into Seung-hyun, who told him that A-Ra was on her way to an interview at the Sina Hotel. Upon hearing that, Jung-woo rushed off to find her. Seeing A-Ra across the street, he shouted her name with all his strength. He didn't care how many people were watching. He just wanted her to turn around and look at him. Ignoring the heavy traffic, Jung-woo rushed toward her, demanding to know why A-Ra was attending interviews elsewhere when her internship hadn't even ended, asking if she was simply tired of him. A-Ra couldn't understand why Jung-woo always overreacted and kept interfering in her personal life. If it was out of guilt or pity, she didn't need it. To prove his sincerity, he told her that he loved her deeply, and that not a single moment passed without thinking of her. The moment he finished speaking, Jung-woo couldn't control himself and kissed A-Ra passionately, but she immediately pushed him away, because A-Ra knew their relationship had already ended long ago. Holding on would only bring them both pain. Using the excuse of being late for her interview, she left, though Jung-woo still insisted on escorting her there. Meanwhile, Seung-hyun was relaxing on the rooftop when the butler suddenly came to find him, acting on the chairman's orders to monitor Jung-woo, and had taken several important photos. When Seung-hyun saw the pictures of Jung-woo and A-Ra kissing, he was just as shocked. Though he felt deeply unsettled inside, he asked the butler to keep this secret from his father, otherwise it would only stir up more trouble. On the other hand, A-Ra faced difficulties during the interview, as all the other candidates were highly educated and had experience working for major corporations. Compared to them, she was just an intern, and naturally felt a bit nervous. When one of the women heard about A-Ra's CV, she showed open contempt. In the restroom, she kept mocking A-Ra, saying that apart from her looks, A-Ra had no real talent and must have used connections to even get this far. Jung-woo, who overheard everything from outside, was furious on A-Ra's behalf, so he came up with a way to get revenge for her. When the woman stepped out, he put on dark sunglasses, pretended to be a staff member from upper management, and whispered to her that the board had selected her. He told her they wanted to meet her on the rooftop and lied that the executives were curious whether she would take the stairs or the elevator. The woman completely believed him and climbed 20 floors by foot, much to Jung-woo's amusement, successfully removing a strong rival for A-Ra. After A-Ra finished her interview, Jung-woo took her out for a meal. That evening, he personally drove her home, and even then, he was reluctant to say goodbye. Just as they were parting, A-Ra was surprised to see Seung-hyun waiting for her there all along. Watching the two of them standing close together, Seung-hyun felt a pang of sadness, realizing he was the outsider. Heartbroken, Seung-hyun turned to alcohol for comfort. He kept drinking glass after glass, worrying Jung-woo, who tried to persuade him to stop, but his words went unheard. Meanwhile, A-Ra found herself moved by Jung-woo's confession. She no longer wanted to be bound by those rules, and decided to hold on to her own happiness. During the meeting that day, A-Ra dressed more beautifully than usual, catching Jung-woo's gaze again and again. He texted her compliments, and even exchanged flirtatious looks with his ex-wife, but they weren't the only ones who noticed. Both Yeojin and Seung-hyun were clearly unhappy. Ever since the two had quietly confirmed their relationship, every day had been filled with happiness. However, trouble began to surface when A-Ra accidentally overheard that Jung-woo had gotten into conflicts with his fellow investors. This incident could potentially lead to a company crisis. To temporarily ease the situation, Jung-woo had no choice but to seek additional funding from the shareholders. Though it was an extremely risky move, Yeojin then proposed one final solution: to announce their engagement, saying that alone would be enough to attract investors. But no matter what, Jung-woo refused to use such a disgraceful tactic. Moreover, he needed to reject Yeojin's feelings things, so she would no longer hold on to false hope. Soon after, someone offered to invest in Jung-woo's company, but on the condition that he be allowed to join the management board. This left Jung-woo deeply troubled. What he didn't know was that the man was actually working under Seung-hyun, who had orchestrated the plan with the intention of overthrowing Jung-woo out of love for A-ra. And it wasn't just Seung-hyun targeting him. The photos of Jung-woo kissing A-ra had already reached the chairman, who was furious and determined not to let the matter slide. That day, the company held a live broadcast event to introduce their new product, so everyone was busy preparing. Jung-woo also stopped by to check on things and took the opportunity to visit A-ra in the storage room, where she was carefully inspecting the handbags before the shoot. The two were happily chatting when Yo-jin suddenly appeared. Knowing they had been secretly seeing each other, she was filled with resentment. She found an excuse to send Jung-woo away and warned A-ra to focus on her work, reminding her that her time at the company was running out. Just a few minutes before the live recording, A-ra discovered that one of the handbags had been swapped, but with no time left to fix it, they had no choice but to cancel the shoot. If the project failed, all the blame would fall on A-ra, leaving her anxious and confused. Suddenly, she remembered seeing Secretary Kim acting suspiciously in the storage room, so she went to find her. By chance, she overheard a conversation between Yo-jin and the secretary, revealing that the chairman himself had ordered her to do it. The matter had nothing to do with Yo-jin, but A-ra only caught the part where she told the secretary to destroy all the evidence, which led to a misunderstanding. Furious, A-ra accused Yo-jin of being shameless enough to pull such a despicable act. Though wrongly accused, Yo-jin didn't bother to explain herself and instead lashed out at A-ra, saying that A-ra was the one who had indirectly ruined Jung-woo's future. If she hadn't shown up, he might have been Yo-jin's husband by now. But A-ra refused to back down and let Yo-jin do as she pleased. She shot back that the real pitiful and shameless one clinging to Jung-woo was Yo-jin herself. Enraged, Yo-jin tried to hit A-ra, but A-ra blocked her. During the struggle, Yo-jin's prosthetic leg gave way, and she fell unconscious. A-ra was stunned and panicked, unsure what to do, but luckily Jung-woo arrived in time and quickly rushed her to the hospital. It turned out that because Yo-jin had skipped her regular medical checkups, the joint connecting to her prosthetic leg had become infected, leading to the incident. Only now did Jung-woo learn the secret she had been hiding all along, and he felt deeply guilty for not treating her better. Moreover, the tension between Jung-woo and Seung-hyun kept escalating after his relationship with A-ra became public. Seung-hyun warned, "If you've chosen A-ra over my sister, then you'll lose everything you have." Around that time, A-ra came home and heard her best friend crying in the bathroom. When she went to check, she found Min Young holding a pregnancy test. The baby news had come so suddenly that she broke down in tears, completely unprepared. But when A-ra looked closer, it turned out to have only one line. It was just a misunderstanding. Still, the mention of a baby made A-ra recall the child she had lost before birth, and tears began streaming down her face. At that moment, Jung-woo was on his way to visit A-ra. Standing outside, he happened to overhear her conversation with her friend. A-ra choked up and said, "That baby was my only hope, but I couldn't protect my child. Every day I came home from work exhausted, with no time for the baby, and I never even let it hear its father's voice." Her friend tried to comfort her. "Don't cry, A-ra. That baby has surely been reborn into a better family by now. Back then you were working hard to pay off debts. You couldn't have done anything differently." Hearing those words, Jung-woo was crushed to his core, covering his mouth tightly to stop himself from making a sound. He never knew that he had once had a child who died before birth, nor that A-ra had silently endured such pain while he was resenting her for leaving him. Now, he no longer wanted to hide from the truth. He stepped forward and embraced A-ra tightly, whispering countless apologies in his heart. Jung-woo wanted to make it up to A-ra from this moment on, but she didn't want them to go through more suffering if their love was destined to break again. She never blamed him, so there was no need for him to make amends. Just being as they were now was enough to make her happy. Meanwhile, Yo-jin finally regained consciousness. The moment she woke up, she demanded to see Jung-woo, but her brother stopped her. He wanted to personally prevent Jung-woo and A-ra from being together at any cost. Around the same time, A-ra received a notice from the hotel. They could arrange for her to start working as soon as possible, but that left her conflicted. She didn't know whether she should leave right away or not. Moreover, the board of directors had called a meeting to hold A-ra accountable for the incident caused under her supervision. When Jung-woo saw everyone criticizing his ex-wife, he immediately spoke up to defend her. Just then, Seung-hyun suddenly walked in and took Yo-jin's seat, leaving everyone puzzled. He then stood up and announced that from now on, he would take over his sister's position while she recovered. The employees who had once worked with Seung-hyun were shocked to learn that he was the director's younger brother and regretted not having treated him better before. Yet despite his sudden promotion, Seung-hyun remained humble and friendly with everyone. Everyone except A-ra. There was something important he needed to tell her. He revealed that he and Jung-woo had actually known each other for a long time and had been closer than real brothers. But if he had to choose between her and Jung-woo, he would still choose A-ra, because love was something that couldn't be shared with anyone else. Once he had power in his hands, Seung-hyun quickly used it to suppress Jung-woo. He held a meeting with the shareholders, forcing the man who had once been his brother in all but blood into a corner. If Jung-woo couldn't guarantee that the upcoming game would achieve the expected profits, his position would be in jeopardy. As soon as the meeting ended, Jung-woo immediately went to find Seung-hyun. He couldn't understand why the person who used to be his closest friend would push him to such extremes. But the answer was obvious. If Jung-woo lost everything, he wouldn't be able to protect A-ra as he had promised, and might even have to rely on his family's financial support. When Jung-woo realized Seung-hyun's true intention, he could only give a bitter smile, but even so, he was determined to fight to the end. By then, rumors had already spread throughout the company and reached A-ra's ears. Learning that Jung-woo might have to resign, she became extremely worried and tried to find out more through his assistant. When the assistant returned, he told Jung-woo how much A-ra had been concerned about him, and even handed him the phone so he could call her. But at that moment, Jung-woo felt lost for words. Unsure of what to say, he asked his assistant to act as a spy for him by secretly video calling A-ra. However, as soon as she turned around, he panicked and ducked out of sight. The plan was an instant failure. Jung-woo then turned to Soo-chol for information and learned that A-ra's father was ill and the restaurant was short-staffed, so he immediately rushed over to help. When he appeared, everyone was surprised, especially A-ra, who was flustered since she hadn't told him to come. Still, Jung-woo enthusiastically helped around the restaurant, hoping to win her heart again, but A-ra didn't seem to pay him much attention. Later, the whole family gathered to play Hwa-2 cards. A-ra didn't join and just quietly watched from behind. Seeing Jung-woo laughing and chatting made her truly happy inside, though she didn't show it on her face. She soon stood up to say goodbye and left. Seeing her go, Jung-woo also wanted to walk her home, but her father stopped him and wouldn't let him leave. The next day, hoping to lift A-ra's mood, Seung-hyun invited her out to take photos for design inspiration, and gave her a necklace that she really liked. He also knew that A-ra was torn about whether to leave the company, so he wanted to encourage her, and deep down, he hoped she would give him another chance. Meanwhile, Jung-woo went to visit Yojin. Seeing him there, she was overjoyed and said that once she recovered, they should go to the United States together. But to her surprise, the reason he came was to firmly end things between them. He wanted them to stop getting entangled any further. That decision enraged the chairman, who immediately ordered all investments in Jung-woo's company to be withdrawn. Yojin knew this outcome was inevitable. She called A-ra over and demanded that she stay away from Jung-woo, otherwise, he would lose everything. A-ra was still confused, not understanding what Yojin meant, when the latter suddenly lost control, throwing things and yelling for her to leave. Before A-ra could recover from the shock, she overheard a conversation between Jung-woo and the chairman. For the sake of his daughter, the proud man had actually knelt down, begging Jung-woo to save her. Losing Jung-woo had made Yojin lose the will to live, and that only deepened the chairman's guilt for being the cause of her suffering and disability. He threatened to withdraw all investments if Jung-woo refused, but Jung-woo would rather lose everything than marry someone he didn't love. The chairman, furious after failing to persuade him, slapped Jung-woo across the face, a moment that startled A-ra, who had witnessed it all. Wanting to comfort him in his most difficult and exhausting moment, A-ra prepared a hearty meal herself and waited for Jung-woo to come home. When Jung-woo saw everything she had prepared, he was momentarily dazzled. He never imagined that years after their divorce, he would get to eat a meal cooked by his ex-wife again. But afraid she might notice the red mark on his face, he kept covering it with his hand. A-ra knew the reason but didn't ask. Instead, she brought out some wine and invited him to drink with her. Afterward, she personally went to get the first aid kit and gently applied medicine to his face. Their faces grew closer and closer until they couldn't hold back anymore and shared a kiss. The next morning, when they both woke up, neither could remember what had happened. Seeing that Jung-woo wasn't wearing any clothes, A-ra immediately thought he had taken advantage of her, but in truth, she had gotten drunk the night before and thrown up all over him. Nothing else had happened. Around that time, A-ra's brother accidentally let slip to a colleague that she was the director's ex-wife, so he had to beg him to keep it secret, or there would be big trouble. Unfortunately, the team leader happened to overhear their conversation on the stairs, which meant one more person knew. Soo-chol even had to go all the way to the office to silently plead with them not to tell anyone. Both promised to keep their mouths shut and swore not to say a word. A-ra, wanting to have one last date before leaving the company, asked Jung-woo to meet her in 2 days. Too excited, Jung-woo sent her a package the next day. Inside was a cute teddy bear with a button on it. When A-ra pressed it, the bear loudly said, "I love you," and everyone in the office heard it. Embarrassed beyond words, she quickly returned the bear to the secretary, asking him to deliver it back to Jung-woo for her. But unexpectedly, Song-hee found out and immediately spread the news throughout the company, leading everyone to criticize A-ra for meddling in the relationship between Jung-woo and Yeojin and causing the company's crisis. Unexpectedly, he personally stepped forward to clarify things for his ex-wife, putting an end to those malicious rumors. He even bowed his head to apologize to everyone for the unnecessary trouble she had caused. Because of that, A-ra felt even more guilty. She thought that if she stayed, it would only bring him more harm, so she decided to resign, even though she had hesitated for a long time. After leaving the company, she and Seung-hyun went out drinking to have a farewell party. He knew everything A-ra did was because of Jung-woo, which made him feel very uncomfortable, as he felt he could never compare to Jung-woo. At that moment, Jung-woo was also waiting for A-ra to return, only to see her with Seung-hyun. He wanted to approach her, but Seung-hyun kept blocking him, wanting A-ra to quickly cut ties with this man. Watching her turn and walk away, Jung-woo didn't hold any resentment toward A-ra, because the previous night, when she was drunk, she had revealed everything in her heart. Not wanting Jung-woo to lose the career he had worked so hard to build because of her, A-ra chose to leave him, even though it caused them both immense pain. Hearing this, Jung-woo was heartbroken, but aside from struggling alone against the other shareholders, there was nothing more he could do. On the day they went on a date together, Jung-woo rested his head on A-ra's lap, cherishing the peaceful moment he had waited 3 long years to experience. After that, they went on a boat ride along the river, admiring the scenery of Seoul. He wanted to take this chance to confess his feelings to A-ra, even having prepared a proposal ring, but she still coldly rejected Jung-woo. Not long after, Yeojin returned to the company and quickly held a shareholders meeting, forcing Jung-woo to resign, or else the chairman would withdraw his investment. Because her love had turned into hatred, this time, she didn't want to leave him any way out. Before the shareholders could even vote, Jung-woo chose to step down on his own rather than let Yeojin get what she wanted. After quitting her job, A-ra only stayed at her mother's restaurant to help with chores and never went to that hotel again. She thought that by leaving, Jung-woo would be able to keep his company, but now she heard that he had resigned and vanished without a trace. Hearing that, A-ra grew anxious and ran everywhere to look for him. She even went to his house but didn't see any sign of Jung-woo. Calling and texting him, he never replied. At that time, he had set up a small office and started over from scratch. Determined not to give up, he worked day and night to develop his own software. After a long time, A-ra finally found where Jung-woo was staying. She rushed in and scolded him harshly for not contacting her and for hiding away in such a shabby place. Even though she was deeply worried about him, she still said, "Don't ever show up in front of me again." Yet the next morning, A-ra still went to his office on her own. She called out until her voice was hoarse but got no response, so she peeked through the window to see what Jung-woo was doing. It turned out he was so focused that he didn't even hear A-ra calling his name. But she wasn't the only one who came there. Seung-hyun, on behalf of the chairman, came to ask Jung-woo to return, because after losing such an important person like him, the company had been declining day by day. Yeojin alone couldn't handle everything, and the chairman's health had also greatly deteriorated. Just as Seung-hyun said, when Jung-woo went to visit him, the chairman could only lie in bed and talk to him, hoping he would come back to take charge of the company once more. It was hard for Jung-woo to accept being asked to return so soon after being forced out. He could put company matters aside, but the fact that his relationship with A-ra still hadn't been mended was something he couldn't ignore. So every day, he shamelessly came to her restaurant to eat, even though A-ra kept kicking him out. To win her favor, he even helped her father clean the barbecue grills. Seeing how devoted his son-in-law was, her father taught him a trick on how to apologize whenever he and his wife had a quarrel. That evening, everyone gathered for an outdoor dinner party. Sucheol also heard that the chairman had called Jung-woo back, so he tried to persuade him to return to the director's position. Wouldn't that be better than hiding away in a tiny place like this? Even though Jung-woo knew he was right, he still wanted to build his own career, rather than return to the place that once drove him out. After the party ended, everyone left except A-ra, who stayed behind to clean up. Jung-woo lay down to sleep in a nearby tent, but he was only pretending so he could quietly watch her. Worried he might be cold, A-ra came closer to check if he had covered himself properly, and when she accidentally opened his phone, she found that his wallpaper was a photo of her sleeping at his house before. It made A-ra feel truly happy. She no longer wanted to leave Jung-woo, and decided to stay by his side through thick and thin. Every day, she diligently came to Jung-woo's office to clean up, making him wonder why she showed up so often. She then took out her job application form, wanting to have a proper reason to stay there. From that moment moment on, they could be together every minute and every second. During work hours, A-ra often stole glances at Jung-woo, only to be reminded by him to focus on her work. Just then, she received a message from Seung-hyun saying that today was his birthday. After reading it, A-ra didn't think much and went to celebrate with Seung-hyun, though it was merely an excuse for him to see her. Meanwhile, Jung-woo stayed behind at the office to work, but he couldn't do it all alone, so his assistant brought 2 more helpers from the company to support him. Seeing that they still chose to stay with him even after he resigned, Jung-woo felt deeply grateful. And even though he had left the company, whenever the system encountered a problem, Jung-woo never refused, and would go there to handle it himself. The rest of the time, he and his team worked hard to complete the game software they had been developing. After a long period of effort, they finally achieved success. Jung-woo's newly founded company once again collaborated with Yeojin's company and achieved great results. The media and press spent countless pages praising his talent. Even though he had once failed, he never gave up. Behind every successful man, there is always a strong and supportive partner. Jung-woo carefully prepared a romantic proposal for A-ra. He had waited for this moment for a long time and took out the engagement ring, hoping they could start over again. This time, A-ra had no reason to refuse Jung-woo. She deeply regretted leaving him all those years ago. After receiving A-ra's yes, Jung-woo placed the ring on her finger, marking the beginning of a new journey filled with happiness that they had once left unfinished. Seung-hyun also let go of his feelings and wholeheartedly supported A-ra in finding the man she loved. At the same time, his mother, who had been living abroad for many years, finally returned, allowing their family to be reunited once again. At this point, A-ra was pregnant with Jung-woo's child. They sat happily together, discussing what to name their baby and promising that they would never lose their child again. And with that, the drama comes to an end. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to support us. Thank you for watching.